What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Backyard Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, from our good friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road. They got everything you need with the NBA season right around the corner, tipping off really tomorrow. I'll tell you, it's a wonderful time. They got the merch, they got the shirts, they got the jackets, the shorts. Check them out. Tell me you heard it right here on BYP with Q, and you'll get 10% off your next order, 10% added on to your order. So it's Christmas time for our good friend, our very good friend, our next guest, Jonathan Marshall, at John_Marshall3, and of course, sports reporter anchor, WMUR, with a little taste of a little winning football yesterday on Sunday with his Pats. But you got the Bruins, you got the Celtics, a lot of short odds with Boston coming out of the Eastern Conference, but he's our resident NBA, our hoops insider, kind enough to join us on this edition of BYP. What's going on, brother?
Hugh, this is the best time of the year. You got hockey, you got the playoffs, you got baseball playoffs, football, and then the NBA. This is that perfect time for sports fans right here.
Yeah, it's certainly a good time, right? Because the NBA is such a long season, and it's funny to say, hey, Denver Nuggets, reigning NBA champs. And listen, a lot of people look at the short odds with Denver. Can they repeat? People are kind of coming back full circle. I want to get through a couple teams, and then, as we typically do, we'll run through the gamut throughout the season when we really dive into looking some of these lines. But Phoenix, Denver, the Lakers, Golden State, the Clippers, Western Conference, we know it's kind of top heavy. You look at the Eastern Conference, some new faces, new changes, new head coaches, obviously, in some spots, i.e. the Philadelphia 76ers. You got the Bucks basically coming down with the news about an hour or so, making that commitment to Giannis with that contract extension. It's amazing what happens when you got a star player almost balk or threaten to walk, if you will, or demand that those trades. So let's get into, I guess we'll say, the two juggernauts and then everyone else in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think these, yeah.
And then Boston.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it logically on paper, it's a two-team race, right? And I think about it like this. You look at the second tier is Philly, Miami, Cleveland, New York. We can agree on that, right? Those teams compared with the Bucks and Celtics, Miami made the championship last year, but two huge losses in Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. But the Celtics and Bucks adding a Dame, adding a Porzingis, adding a Drew Holiday just adds even more of a dynamic to those teams, right? It's going to make Giannis even better. It's going to make up in Boston, it's going to make Tatum and Jaylen Brown even better. So they added pieces to amplify what they already had. And I can't say the same about these other teams, right? In New York, you add these, Dante DiVincenzo's in New York now, Philly adding a Patrick Beverly, a Mo Bamba. What are these pieces really doing in the grand scheme of things, right? And so Milwaukee and Boston are teams who didn't honestly need much change, but they said, we're trying to win a championship. And these moves that they made, they're just, it doesn't even compare. To me, it just doesn't.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because think about it. Those teams you kind of mentioned, besides Milwaukee and Boston, when we're looking at, Cleveland, the Knicks, the 76ers, you can go down the line. They don't have the short odds to win the championship like a Boston or Milwaukee. But the reason I bring that up is because, perfect example, you look at Milwaukee, right? They're at plus 400. A lot of people believe they're the best team on paper coming out of the Eastern Conference. This is a team a couple seasons removed from winning back in 2021. They're stacked. They make the monster move. They acquire Damian Lillard. You got to get rid of Holiday, obviously involved in the package deal. But with all that being said, you still got your building block in Giannis. I mentioned that 3-year, $186 million contract extension. Listen, average 31, 11 boards to pace all players. We know what they bring to the table, but that's the franchise saying, look, you're going to be with us as you creep into your 30s, and we think we can make a run out of it. Boston's already got the 1-2 punch. Then it goes to your 76ers, where we're not going to spend too much time on them, but I think the Sixers right now, I look at this where I would play the under for their total wins. And I think Nick Nurse is coming into a situation where the worst case scenario, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the worst case scenario is not having James Harden out on the floor, because what that means is Embiid, the reigning MVP, who's getting up there in age, is going to have to log a substantial amount of minutes. And all that offense now is going to run and be predicated and put on his shoulders. And I think that is a big time burden that he really doesn't want at this point of his career. So we know the Bucks and the Celtics are going to be there. I got to bring it up before the season tips off. Are we looking at a implosion here in Philadelphia?
I feel like we've had this conversation before about the Sixers. Honestly, James Harden, I don't see him ever playing a game for the Sixers again at this point. I mean, you calling Daryl Morey, you go overseas to call Daryl Morey a liar multiple times, right? And so that pretty much seals up that relationship. And so at this point, if you're a Sixers team, you're looking at Tyrese Maxey. He has to step up into that second guy role now, right? Whether he's ready or not, this could be a breakout year for him even more so. The talent is there, but is he ready for that number 2 position for a team that wants to compete for a championship? He hasn't been in that position before. So you have a Tobias Harris at the 3 spot as your third option. We know the frustrations with Tobias Harris. The production doesn't match up with the contract. We know what Tobias Harris brings, right?
Yep.
It's not going to be enough. Looking at the rest of this roster, PJ Tucker, Patrick Beverley, DeAnthony Melton, Usana Kelly Oubre, nice pickup. Paul Reed, we'll see what he develops into if Nick Nurse has the coach or Mo Bamba. But this roster to me does not scream when it comes to a championship winning organization. It's not serious for me right now. It's not serious. Like what is your goal with this roster? With a straight face, you cannot tell me that this team is ready for a championship. You're not. And so Joel Embiid, after an MVP season, where does it go from here? Is there another level that he can take? Is there another notch that this team can take? And I don't see it. So what do you have now? At best, you're a second round team, which is what you have been the last few years. Joel Embiid is getting older. Right? Tobias Harris is a free agent after this season. Where is this team at a year from now?
Yeah, I think they're due for a long season. Like I said, I think it's going to be Milwaukee and the Celtics coming out of the Eastern Conference. Even if you look at teams like with the win total, Boston 54.5, Cleveland at 50, the Nets at 37.5. The Sixers right around 44, the Knicks, same number. Then you go to the Western Conference, and again, it's such a top-heavy conference where you look at Denver, you look at Golden State. Listen, LeBron's 38. They're trying to make one more push, one more move, right? Just one more deep run. We saw what he was able to do. And by the way, I don't want to discount real quick Miami coming out of an Eastern Conference.
Oh, for sure.
Let's not, please, let's not pretend like I have to give them their flowers, obviously, but they're not on the level of Milwaukee or Boston. But it is, again, a long season. You got the Clippers, you got Memphis. To me, I think if Denver can just stay healthy, there's no reason why Denver, it's a very lazy take, but there's no reason or analysis. There's no reason to think that they can't get back to the NBA Finals and win it again. Will they have to go through a Golden State? Will they have to go through a Phoenix, a new look Phoenix Suns, right, with their new version of the Big Three? Perhaps, unless those teams beat each other up. But to me, Denver should be the front runner. They have a legit opportunity to repeat as NBA champs. Do you like them hands down coming out of the Western Conference?
As of right now, that is my team to come out of the West. I like Phoenix on what they offer with those 3 guys and Booker, KD, and Bill. I have to see more of it on the floor, right, and see how those role guys step up. But as far as Denver, look, they have the continuity. As far as the main guys, you lose a Bruce Brown to Indiana, so that's a big loss. But also you bring back the Joker, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, KCP. So your starting 5 is intact, and you're a championship team. And so I don't think people need to understand they have the ultimate weapon in the Joker. Do teams have an answer for that? The answer is no. And so as long as the answer remains no to that, it's going to be hard to beat this team for 7 games because they have an identity, they have a style of which they play, and they're consistent with that. And also, if you flash back to the finals and their playoff run, Christian Braun was a rookie last year, got valuable minutes, and he made some big plays. Another year for him, and that program developing. I think he's ready. Peyton Watson, another young player, another name to step up that could step up and to watch for. And also a rookie that they have, Julian Strother out of Gonzaga, has had a great preseason. So maybe that's a name who maybe won't get a lot of minutes to start the season, but as the season goes on, he could be a guy we see slowly getting more minutes, much like a Christian Braun last year. And so Denver, they're just a machine right now for me as far as being ready to win now, but having players coming up the pipeline that can contribute when they need them.
Laying 5 at home when the season tips off against the Lakers, who were going to be looking for that measure of revenge. They'll raise the rafters, the banners in the rafters. Again, great ABA squad, first title in the NBA. Suns Warriors later. Right now, that's pretty much a pick 'em. I've seen -110, a point here and there. The Lakers, how much tread is still left on this LeBron James tire, right? Because we always talk about the health, the availability. We talked about it with Embiid. You have to have that 1-2 punch. LeBron last year about 28 and a half. But again, think about this. LeBron James last year played 55 games. He was logging 36 and a half minutes. You always have the question mark of the health of Davis, the perimeter shooters, the bench. Where do the Lakers fit into this equation in the Western Conference?
I think their ceiling's a top 4 team, but the question remains, will Anthony Davis be the number 1 guy who the Lakers, I feel like the Lakers at this point figured AD would take that spot. I don't think they wanted to count on LeBron at 38 to have to log these minutes and to carry such a huge burden. That's just not fair. And so AD, you're in your prime, you need to be ready to go. You need to be healthy. You need to be available. And even when sometimes you'll watch these Lakers games, you forget AD's even out there. Like, what do you like? The presence for a guy who's so talented, you're not seeing and feeling the presence that you would want to feel from an AD out there on the court. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think once again, it depends on AD. Is he going to be available? And is he going to be consistent when he's available? Can you count on a consistent effort? And also Austin Reeves, a lot of expectations for him. Is there another level that he can take? So to me, those are the 2 other guys that I'm looking at besides LeBron that need to step it up even more so.
Yeah, and then you got Golden State. And again, I feel like the theme of the spot tonight is, these 1-2 punches, Thompson and Curry. It's amazing to think Curry's 35.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. But yet he can still play at a ridiculously high level. The MO with Golden State, and I don't know if Green's going to be available when they open up the season. Doesn't appear so. But listen, they've got that pedigree, right? They're a team where, I'm trying to equate it to another sport. You look at the NFL and every year they're in contention, right? We know who the big dogs are, but let's just say at the AFC, you look at Kansas City. All right, then who's maybe that next team? Is it a Cincy? Is it a Buffalo? Back in the day, it was always say the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
That's kind of like Golden State. They're going to be a very good team. They're going to win their 50+ games. They're going to win a couple rounds. They're going to have an opportunity to contend for a title. But again, my concern is the legs, the minutes logged, and quite frankly, I think they're a matchup. I think Denver's a matchup nightmare for Golden State. And Golden State is so reliant on the outside shot. They're so reliant on perimeter. We talk about Denver. At least Denver can get the ball inside a little bit. And I know you and I have gone back and forth over the years. It's not the same type of NBA that it once was. But this. Half-court offense, what happens? Playoffs, everything ratchets up a little bit. You have to be able to run it through your guards. You have to get it inside. So I can see them making one last run here and there, but presently constructed, do you like where Golden State is at? I mean, if you were to see 7-game series right now against Denver.
No way. I mean, Denver can beat you in multiple ways. I don't think Golden State has an answer for any of those ways outside of Steph Curry, right? If Steph Curry goes crazy, then obviously that's just, you got to deal with that. But outside of that, who you have the cover joker? Aaron Gordon, just the physicality that he plays with. Who do you have to even compete with that? Are you going to have Draymond try to match up with him athletically? No. Andrew Wiggins isn't as big as Aaron Gordon. Kevon Looney, as great as he's been, he's limited athletically, right? And so I think just the way that a Denver plays, the physicality, the skill, the depth, man, the youth that they still have, right? I mean, this team, it seems like they've been playing together for a while, but these guys are just hitting their prime. And so for me, Golden State, I think the key to unlocking maybe one more run is Jonathan Kuminga. I think he is the guy that there were a lot of expectations from last year. He didn't meet them. He's had a great preseason. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can elevate himself, because I think if Kuminga sort of taps into what he can become, I think Golden State will have a chance in the playoffs to at least make a Western Conference Finals run. We'll see. But outside of that, I mean, Chris Paul, Steph Curry backcourt, I mean, I don't know how much you're going to get out of that on the defensive end, I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Now, offensively, Chris Paul, we know what he is as a point guard. He'll do wonders for Steph and Clay and Kuminga, all these guys setting up, right? But defensively, how is that going to work out for those guys?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's a good point on Kuminga. Played about 20 something odd minutes, averaged about 9 or so. You're looking for him to certainly step up. And then conversely, you look at, I guess, one of the teams that I feel as though we talk about them like we talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, the Phoenix Suns, right? If not now, when? I mean, you basically now put together your new version of the big three.
Yeah.
So it's when I look at the makeup of this team, they're so hard to figure out. But now you've got Booker, Durant, and Beal. And I think Beal, we realized that all-star caliber player, that scorer, if you will, all those years, decade plus in Washington. Now he can take a little bit of the load off Kevin Durant. You've got the primary ball handler, guard, shooting guard, scorer, if you will, in Booker. I'm fine with that. What concerns me is a deep run in the playoffs. You certainly need production off the bench, because how many times have we seen too much on Booker, too much on Durant on the pass? I mean, and listen, they're losing. They lost, obviously, a key piece here and there. I just think a team that finished 45-37, they lost to the Denver Nuggets in a series that I never thought they had a shot to win.
Right.
It's tough, man. I mean, is Durant going to give you 27 a night? Is Booker going to give you 27 a night? Are you going to get 4 or 5 years ago Bradley Beal? Or are you going to get him, a guy that can give you maybe 18 to 23 and you'll take it? I just don't like the depth when it comes to Phoenix. And you brought this up over the last year plus 2-3 years. The makeup of the team, there's something off about this team, right? There's a softness. There's not a toughness about this team that's needed to make a deep run and get to the NBA Finals.
I'm right with you, Q. It's interesting. It's exciting when you look at it on paper, right? I mean, these are 3 of the best scorers we've seen.
Play the over. Yeah, pound
it. Yep. It's going to be fun to watch offensively. And when we talk about these guys and the depth, I think Booker, Bill, and KD are going to have to lean even more so into their playmaking skills. I think that's going to be crucial. And so when you have 3 guys like that on the floor, for a defense, it's tough to figure out. You can't key on one guy, right? And so I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for a Grayson Allen or Eric Gordon to step up and make some big shots and big plays because of that. And so offensively, I think that's going to be the most exciting part about this Phoenix Suns team. But in the playoffs, if we're talking about Denver being the team you have to go through, man, once again, that physicality that we talk about in the playoffs that Denver brings, right? What do they have to answer to that? And that's why Denver is such a hard matchup, because they can beat you in so many ways. They can play the half-court game because you have the Joker who, with his passing ability, you're always wide open, right? They can play the running. They can run up and down the court. You have an Eric Gordon, Aaron Gordon. You have a Jamal Murray. Like, you have these young guys coming off the bench in a Christian Braun and a Peyton Watson possibly. Like, there's so many ways that they can beat you. And they already have that continuity. Like, the main core, they've been around each other. They know what they are. They know they have an identity. With Phoenix, they got to figure it out still. They still have to figure it out. And they're a top 4 team to me.
Yeah.
When it comes to beating a Denver in the 7-game series, I just don't think they might not have enough.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are some teams that have question marks that we don't know, or questions that are going to be answered, right? I mean, listen, Memphis, again, the elephant in the room, it's just, that's a team that's tough to figure out. They just lost Adams. He's going to need surgery. He's going to be out for the year. I mean, I would, their win total is 45.5. I mean, I look at that and I'm starting to think maybe I play the under. I just don't see them winning 45, because if they win 45, that tells me that they're close to maybe being possible in the play-in, right? I mean, they're right there, and I don't see that happening this year with Memphis.
Losing a Steven Adams is huge. I mean, he was a guy who was the enforcer. We talk about that physicality, right? Controlling the boards. And so you're relying on a Jaren Jackson to double up even more so on that production, right? his problem has always been staying out of foul trouble. How is he going to handle the extra load now with Steven Adams? How do you replace that? I'm not sure yet. Jon Morant's going to be out it's not a 10-game suspension, like 25 games. That's a lot of games.
Which tells, not to cut you off, which almost, if you can grab that win total now, I mean, think about it. This team comes out of the gate 10-25, 10-30. You're looking pretty good because they got to basically play 750 ball the rest of the way.
Right. I mean, those 25 games, I mean, without having Ja, that's the difference between 5 wins possibly, right? I mean, just having his presence out there, and that matters when you're talking about a playoff push and playoff seeding. That could be the difference between a playoff team or a play-in spot. And so Memphis is in an interesting spot. I mean, they added a Marcus Smart from Boston. Great leadership, great defense, but offensively,
very good defense,
streaky. And so don't expect too much when it comes to them offensively. So you got to figure out, how do you replace that dynamic playmaking and scoring ability that Ja Morant has. Desmond Bane had a great year last year. He's been one of the most improved players over the last couple of years. Is there another level that he has to take? So multiple questions for this Memphis team, and we'll see if they can stay afloat because it's going to be tough.
Any expectation? I mean, when we talk about teams that are young, that are on the rise, I mean, are you going to be a little more focused on San Antonio?
Oh, of course. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen what we've seen out of Victor Wembanyama, right? I mean, we've seen the highlights of when he was overseas, and we've read the stories, and we've seen clips, but to actually see him out on the NBA floor consistently, making these plays and seeing these other pro players just seem to be in awe. And I think defensively, that's where we're going to see the biggest impact. Just his size and having his hand. I mean, did you see the block he had on Andrew Wiggins? Just things like that. Just the little things. Even tipping the ball out on the rebound and giving his team an extra possession. Like, those little things are going to make San Antonio an even better team this year. But the one young team that I'm looking forward to is the Thunder. I think if they click like how the Kings were last year,
sleeper.
I think the Thunder can be a top 4 team in the West. I think so. With the talent they have in SGA, with up-and-coming guys in a Jalen Williams, a Josh Giddey, a Chet Holmgren. I mean, I think this team has all the pieces to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference. I really do.
Wow.
That's pretty. They should be a top 16. If they're a playing team, I would be shocked. I think they should be a top 6 team in the Western Conference. They really should be.
Open the season against the Bulls right now. That's sitting at a pick 'em. I think, last year when I was able to stay up and watch some of these late games, I saw towards the end of the season, you mentioned SGA, who really, if you didn't follow the NBA, you wouldn't know who this kid is. And he averaged about 32 a game, right? Yeah. So that, you look at the stats and you see that, the usual suspects, and you see, Giannis and Tatum, and then Embiid, and, the Joker and whatnot. And then you look at this kid averaging 31. But what impresses me the most is, he can also give you the 4 or 5 rebounds, the 4 or 5 assists, playing both ends of the floor. I saw them, they played hard. And for a young team, sometimes when you're losing a lot, you want to see the effort on the floor, whether you're playing 15, 20, 25 minutes. They got better as the year progressed with their perimeter defense. Again, every team in the NBA can knock down threes, but they kind of tighten up the perimeter defense when they needed to. Do I go, 4 or 5 seed? I'm not ready to do that, but it makes me want to maybe watch them for the first, I would say, 20 games of the season. Yeah. I think that's kind of like the NFL. We know by week 4 or 5, you start to see who their legit teams are. I think in the NBA, give me about 15 to 25 games. And then we kind of, we know who you are.
Yeah.
So I gotta throw the other team in LA. I mean, are the Clippers, are they almost like the forgotten franchise, the forgotten team?
I mean, but I think they're forgotten for a reason, because your 2 main guys, they've barely played with each other at the same time, right? So it's like, how can we honestly take this team serious when the 2 main guys, and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard that we're talking about, there's always an injury report to worry about. There's always load management to talk about. And so until there's a consistent effort from both guys at the same time to actually be on the court,
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult because
Yeah.
that's the one holdup. It's not talent. I mean, at their peak, at their healthiest, PG and Kawhi are talented. You know what I mean? And I love the Clippers. I love that they have a Terrence Mann, a Norman Powell. Like, they have nice pieces. But once again, if the top two players aren't there to make it all click, it doesn't even matter. And so I can't really give a read on the Clippers because I don't know if Kawhi or PG are even going to be playing together for a large portion of the season. How do we know?
Who's your MVP?
Man, I'm going back and forth with this, right? Because I feel like Joker can easily win it again, right? But I think, man, can't believe I'm saying this too. I think Boston's going to have a really great season, right?
Tatum.
I think Tatum's going to do it. It's a regular season. I've had issue with Tatum in the playoffs, but this is a regular season award, right?
Yeah.
I think with the year that Boston is going to have, that I think they'll have, I think Tatum is really going to. I want to see a little more aggression from Tatum, and I think we may see that this year. I think having a Drew Holiday, having a Porzingis, they've never played. Brown and Tatum, the two J's, have never played with a big man like Porzingis, right? A skilled big man who can stretch the floor and actually be a threat, right? And so I think that will unlock so much for both those guys, Tatum and Brown. And obviously Tatum being the number one guy on the team. I think this is his year to break through and take that MVP award. I think the Celtics are going to win the East as well.
Interesting. Tatum's sitting right around 700, 750 to 800. Joker plus 430. Luka 550. Giannis 600.
Love Luka. I just don't like that Mavericks team. I don't. So I don't.
By the way, not to cut you off, how about this? Everyone knows that Kyrie's the best player on that team. Am I missing something here?
I heard that. I don't agree with that.
Either do I.
I don't agree with that. The thing with Kyrie is he's always played with Hall of Fame talent, right? Every step of the way. We've seen Luka. I saw what Luka did to Phoenix in that playoff series, right? I saw him smile in Devin Booker's face. Went into Phoenix, told him what it was. He cooked them. So who was the second best player on that Dallas team?
Yeah.
Most people can't even figure it out, right?
Yeah. Most people can't even give you 3 players on that team. So
I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, right? I mean, these are the guys we're talking about. Solid role players, not superstars, not Hall of Famers. Kyrie, LeBron, he's played in Brooklyn, Harden, KD. Now he's playing with Luka again. Luka has had to carry a franchise.
Yeah,
I mean, like, we haven't seen Kyrie carry a franchise. He's never had to. So I can't make that statement.
It'll be interesting to see what his former team, the Nets, do, because everyone's waiting. And this is why I get crazy with the social media. I'm over Ben Simmons.
Please. Good.
Like, just enough already. Like, stop trying to sell me on Ben Simmons going back to that all-star form and engaged and on the floor. You know why? Because there's no expectation. There's no friggin' pressure. Right. He doesn't have Durant in his ear. He doesn't have Kyrie in his ear. He doesn't have James Harden in his ear. He doesn't have Joel Embiid. He can just get his 15 points, 11 rebounds over the next 5, 6, 7 years and be fine with it. And they'll win 30, 35 games. That's it.
Ben can give you, if he goes out game 1, give you 12, 10, and 8. There will be so much hype. So much hype. I'm like, this is a former top pick, but this is where the bar is, right? But like you said, in pressure moments and crunch time moments, we've seen it. Flashback to the Atlanta series. Trae Young underneath the basket. He gives it up to it. Come on.
His career ended when he gave up the money.
That's it. I can't take you serious. Like, it's the same conversation. I want to get back. I want to, all right. And look, the conversation with Ben Simmons is a tricky one, right? We talk about the mental health component. Take that out. The way they treat him is exhausting to me. Like, every little play that he makes, like, this is a professional ball player. I would hope he can make a layup.
Listen, who are you preaching to?
Like, it's exhausting. I mean, it's really exhausting.
You're in the gym putting up, shots with nobody in your face, and you're in the gym putting up weights. I mean, that's your job, man. But can you do it on a Saturday or Sunday? Can you do it on a Tuesday, Thursday night? Can you do it in the fourth quarter when you're 3 of 16 and you got to take the shot because everyone else is fouled out? The answer is unequivocally no.
The best player on that team is Mikal Bridges, who wasn't even a lottery pick. You know what I mean? So this is where you are in your career, Ben Simmons. He's a glorified role player. That's what he is. He's no longer, he's not an all-star. He's not. I mean, that's just what it is. He's not. Is he an all-star? Q.
Ben Simmons?
All-star talent and all-star player are two different things.
Yeah, listen, the conversation of this guy has talent.
Right.
Everyone has talent because if you don't have talent, you're not going to be in these leagues.
Right.
I just think he's a player.
Yeah.
You go to the game and you say, "Oh, who Ben Simmons?" Like I don't. It's like Embiid. Think about this. It's one of the reasons. One of my buddy asked me. He's like, "I got to put something on Embiid for MVP," and I was like, "Listen, he might put up monster numbers and they're going to stink, but he's not playing it 65 games this year.
Right?
He's not." And Nick Nurse comes down and basically, his track record in Toronto. I'm going to run these guys. They're playing. You can't do that with Embiid. You can't. It'll be load management every other night or back to back or when we're, back to back when we're in April, May, all of a sudden, and this team's 10 games under 500, he's going to be sitting 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
That's why you have to stick with some of the players that we mentioned. I think Tatum is a nice little play, but I'll tell you what, you mentioned your guy before, SGA plus 1,900.
Man.
And Durant, 1,900. Durant's 1,900 too.
That's a tough one. I think Booker could be an MVP candidate this season over KD. That's my personal opinion. Like, I really think Book might have one of those seasons. If Phoenix is like a top 2 team in the Western Conference, I think Booker may unlock something. I think there's another level that Book may take as a playmaker overall. And so I kind of like Booker as an MVP candidate off that team. I do.
Do you have your NBA predictions, NBA Finals predictions?
Man, I'm going to go with Boston and Denver. That's what I'm saying right now. Boston and Denver. I don't have a winner yet. I don't know.
Does Boston run away with the Eastern Conference, or is it a 1-2 race with Milwaukee?
I think it's a 1-2 race with Milwaukee.
So 55 wins?
I would say that. Yeah, that's fair. I think with Milwaukee, obviously you have a Giannis and a Dame. But from the wing spots, what do you have to counter Tatum and Brown? Chris Middleton, injuries. He's getting older.
Always. Saw it last year.
Malik Beasley, Pat Connaughton, like, who are your 2 and 3 guys that can really combat what Tatum and Brown are going to bring to the floor, right? Brook Lopez, he had a great year last year. He's a year older. Yep. And so the big question for me is, outside of Dame and Giannis, the other guys from the wing positions, the 2 and 3 spots, how are they going to attack teams, right? And so look at a Boston with a Drew Holiday, with Derek White. They can play those 2 guys on the floor. That's the best defensive backcourt in the league.
Pickup. I mean, I know you had to throw him in that package deal, but he's a player, man.
And I don't think people realize how good Derek White is. I mean, defensively, he's probably one of the better defensive guards in the league. To have him and Holiday on the floor at the same time. The biggest concern about Boston is their front court depth. If Porzingis is hurt, which I know is a huge possibility, you're relying on Al Horford. Yeah. You gave up Rob Williams. You don't have that rim protection anymore, that presence. And so that's the biggest question for Boston. But if they're healthy, I just think adding Drew Holiday just unlocks something for the 2 J's. Yeah.
All right. Excellent stuff as always. Jonathan Marshall at John_Marshall3. And of course, does a great job covering the NBA sports reporter anchor WMUR. So he's giddy with Boston. The Pats win. You got the Bruins. It's so funny. Because we knew as soon as Harper struck out tonight, you figure, let's bang this sucker out.
It's over.
And by the way, white knuckler time if you're a Phillies fan. White knuckler, because if you lose this friggin' series, it is a historic, massive choke job, being up 2-0 against a team that couldn't even get on base.
You cannot lose this series. I mean, I know we're getting nervous as if you're a Philly sports fan. You know what happened with the Sixers in Boston in that series, losing the game 6 at home. Like, it's you got the Eagles, though. The Eagles. When all else fails, right? That's the card I can always put down. Yeah, shout out to Howie Roseman. He did it again. Yeah, he fleeced the Titans again.
I can't really say anything. Like, wake me up in spring.
How about Tyrod Taylor, though, huh?
Listen, he's a nice backup. He's a pro's pro, and he made some nice plays yesterday. But he also took a horrible sack. He also could not connect. He could have led Hyatt for a touchdown. He had to blunder against Buffalo. There's a reason this guy is a backup. That's it.
I think Daniel Jones's future is as a backup too.
What I mean, what are we doing here? Like, what are you countering the listen, I'll say this. Did the offense run better the last couple of weeks? It did, but I also think you have to attribute that to having number 26 out there.
Of course.
Put it this way. Tyrod Taylor is not the future of the Giants.
Oh, not at all.
Daniel Jones might not even be the long-term future of the Giants after this year next. So that being said, I just wanted meaningful friggin' football. I didn't want to be eliminated. The Giants didn't want to be eliminated on Halloween, right? So beat the Jets, beat the Raiders. Now you're talking 4-5. I might be a little giddy.
Wild card, maybe. Wild card. You might sneak in a wild card again. You might do it.
By the way, I can't stand looking at friggin' Sirianni. He just gets on my last friggin' nerves. I can't. That alone makes me just want the Eagles. I can't. I'll text my buddies back and forth, and they're Eagles fans. So I can't effing stand this clown. I can't.
I love it. I'm like, when it was 4th down in our own territory, I'm like, this psycho's going to go for it. He's a psycho, and I love it. I'm like, you're really going for it right here. I can't.
I can't do this for another. Listen, I can't do this for another 12 weeks.
And then we get the win over Miami. The guy who gets cooked by Tyreek Hill. He's going to Nashville, Tennessee. We get into all-pro safety. It's just like, come on. We're the most hated. We got to be one of the most hated teams in the league right now.
And listen, what are we doing here with these reporters? I mean, I like Joe Schad. He worked with ESPN. Now he covers the Dolphins for West Palm Beach. What are we going to have? 26 texts and complain about, or the tweets on X, on Twitter, and complain about the push tush? I mean, what do we stop crying about it? Like, I wish I tweeted this out. I was like, I wish the Giants had like a Giants tush push, something you can't stop it. It's just a football play. I don't give a crap when anyone says, can you get injured? You can get injured running out of the tunnel, man. Every play. This is a play that they have just perfected, along with their tackles always jumping off sides, but that's another story. But I'm just saying.
Other teams have tried it, and it hasn't been as successful. So, I mean, Jalen Hurts he's powerful in his legs, right? And so, I mean, look, for me, if you see a team go for it on 4th down in their own territory, and it's still a ball game, and they get it, that's a you problem. That's how I see it. Like, that's all out disrespect. Like, you can't stop us. You know what's coming, and you're still not going to stop it. 100%. So for Miami, they're a finesse team.
Yeah, that's, you know what? They're a good team. I'm not going to get on the schedule of opponents because we could have made the argument last year with the Eagles.
Right.
But, everything's got to click for them offensively. And at the end of the day, you got to be able to run the friggin' football in the NFL. And if you can't do that, I don't care if you have this air raid offense, you're going to be in trouble. So you always manage to just tweak and needle for some reason. I don't know why.
6-1. It feels good. We got the bad loss against the Jets. I don't know what that was, but got that out the way.
Stubbing your toe. All right, brother. Enjoy tip-off opening night. Should be great. We'll do this on the weekly, and we'll start to dive in these games. We'll look into the line, and we'll get some trends and some player props as well. But appreciate you jumping on this edition of BYP, pal.
All right, Q.